All right, Xbox Series X review. Let's go. A game that did not score a lot of votes in the pre-order poll on Discord. If you're a part of the Discord community that I have, you will see pre-orders 2023, and in there is basically a voting list of all the games that I've made note of, and you can vote against it or for it to be a review. And Redfall didn't really score a lot of votes. I'm not gonna lie, that didn't put too much worry into me, but then you hear a lot of the gossip that's going around, and you know, the worry starts to set in slowly. Now, I'll be completely and perfectly honest with you, I would not have reviewed this game if it was not on Game Pass. The only reason that I am reviewing it is purely that reason. Oh, I do like vampire games as well, so there's a little bit of that smidged in there too. But if this game was not on Game Pass, I would have probably missed doing it. I'm not gonna lie. So I'm gonna break the game down just like I do with every other game. I try to make it as fair as possible. I don't want to seem like I'm favoriting certain games over others. No, we break it down in the exact same way. So the very first thing that we're going to look into, as always, is the choice of music used, because the soundtrack to me in games carries a massive amount of weight in video games. I love old school retro music. I love current gen game music as well. So soundtrack is definitely a big point scorer for me. And did Redfall have a decent or good enough soundtrack? And I have to say straight off the bat, without hesitation, that I absolutely loved every second of listening to this game. In terms of the leveling up theme that they use, the action themes that they use, and the soundtrack, the music and everything, I absolutely fell in love with it, and I really vibe to it really hard. And I'm hearing a lot of feedback coming back for it too as well, so I'm not the only one that agrees that they actually had a good sound system that came with this game itself. If we're talking about the effects, the guns, the explosions, the reload noises, the spells and all that lot, again, I can't throw a fault down, because it worked perfectly. I had no issues with it whatsoever. The gun sounds were fantastic, from the handguns to the shotguns to the assault rifles to the sniper rifles, whether they had a suppressor on it or not. It all worked out really well, and I can't complain. And I'm not going to, because I thoroughly enjoyed the audio aspect of this game. The voice acting, again, I can't fault it. The characters, their swagger between each other, you hearing over the radio, the announcer, and also the bosses speaking to you, the enemy speaking to you. One of the vampires early in game, I'm not going to mention names or anything, because again, I'm not going to do any spoilers. The boss sounded very much like Jigsaw from the Saw movies, and I absolutely fell in love with that voice. I do. I love the whole spooky, dark, like mystical voice, and it worked for me. It really did. So in terms of audio, I can't fault anything at the moment. I might have written some notes down, and I do have a massive list to go through with these notes. So if there's anything specific that I've written down, because we did 6 streams on this, close to 35, pushing up towards 40 hours in the review itself. So I might have something written down. Graphics is the second thing that we look into, but we don't knock points off reviews for how the game looks in terms of graphics. If it's an old school retro style feel, or if it's a realistic with a really OP engine, that's not something that knocks off points, because the game could play incredibly well and not look as good. And vice versa. What I look at is, did the graphic engine that they used, did it work? Did it fit the game itself? Was it broken in any way? Were there problems with the graphic engine in any way? And oh yes. oh yes. There was a lot. And I'm not talking, I think most most of these notes that I've written down are in relation to something broken visually in the game. There were missing textures. There were missing elements in the game itself where your character would be burning on fire, but there is no fire to be burnt on. There would be black squares in a lot of sections of the game where flashing your torch for some reason would showcase the texture, but turning the torch off would make the square reappear again. It was awful. The graphic engine that they used for this game, the Unreal Engine, it was terrible. Utter garbage. The draw distance was ridiculously bad, and that's the distance in which from the player to the item it renders incorrectly. The rendering was so stupidly slow. It took a long time for a lot of items to render incorrectly. And I can go on and on and on. I'm not lying. It's awful. Like, worst engine they probably could have used. There are far better graphical engines out there that they could have jumped on, and I've had quite a few games that I've played around the Unreal, and I tend to be disappointed overall. So yes, in terms of texturing, there was a lot of problems. Draw distance was god awful. Weather effects, they used quite a few weather effects. They didn't use any rain, which is, I'm disappointed. In an open area game, rain would have been really, really nice. But there was a lot of foggy, misty areas itself that you had to explore. There was some red lightning effects that went on, and they sounded absolutely fantastic. And visually, they looked really, really good as well. So the weather effects kind of 50-50 because there were some, but there weren't a lot. Character model design, the 4 characters that you get to play as, they all looked unique. They all looked different. You can change cosmetically how they look in terms of their outfits, their backpack, and their hats. You could also cosmetically affect the guns that you were using as well. As you play throughout the game, you will unlock more skins for these guns, so you can make them look all colorful and jazzly and very sparkly. If that's your go-to, if you want it to look like that, that's absolutely fine. You could also change the appearance of the stake that was on the end of your gun, which you stab the vampires in their chest with. And I absolutely freaking loved that. I really, really, really did. But I was pretty disappointed with the customization with the weapons itself. As you progress through the game, you find certain weapons. You'll find a lot of duplicates as well. Some of them have suppressors on the end of them. Some of them don't have suppressors on the end of them. Some of them have compensators. Some of them have red dots, while others don't have red dots. And I think that's a massive missed opportunity there, in my honest opinion. I think they could have easily set up a workbench in all the safe houses and all the main buildings that you entered itself, so you could customize your weapon, and instead of using iron sights on an assault rifle, you could put on a red dot or a 2x, 4x, and you could add more weight to the customization in that way, because you're giving the player more to play with. And I think that's important with any game like this. I think that is important. I know they tried to make this game as arcade as possible, but it just feels like a missed opportunity to not have a weapon customizing bench for the player to be able to customize their favorite guns that they're running around with. But that's just my opinion. Glitches and bugs, I'm gonna move away from that one for now, because the majority of my notes is going to cover a lot of that. Gameplay and mechanics. The gameplay is very Left 4 Dead, Back 4 Blood feel. It's not an A to B sort of game that you're doing like Left 4 Dead and Back 4 Blood, where you pretty much need to just run from A to B, get to a safe house, run from A to B, get to a safe house. This has a really big open world map system, and I got to give credit where credit is due, where you can enter a lot of the buildings that are around this map, a lot of civilian buildings, a lot of monumental buildings, police stations, clinics, museums, and stuff like that. there's a lot that you can do, and I have to give them props that there are no loading screens on the map itself. As you're running around, you won't have any black screens where the terrain and the area is loading up. It all loads up as you're running around. You can see it because it's got a terrible draw distance, as I said, and the walls that have graffiti on, they're all retro at the beginning until you just stand there and wait for a while, and the game will then slowly load up the actual the actual data, and it looks better when it's loaded. And I ran this game off of an Xbox Series X. I do not understand why the draw distance and even the loading of textures is that bloody slow. It shouldn't be. But the gameplay is for co-op players. You can play on your own if you want to. The game is forced online. So unfortunately, and I do feel this is a mistake, you cannot play the game offline on your own. You connect to a server, either on your own or with your friends itself. And during the game time itself, we had 3 disconnections from the server. We just rejoined I just rejoined the server straight away after being kicked, and I was able to get straight back in. But it is kind of annoying because it will teleport you back. Sometimes quite a fair bit back. The checkpoints can be either 50-50 in this game. They can be in favor for you, or they can screw you over, and then you need to run all the way back, which we encountered quite a lot of the times. The vampires are special. Probably the best word that I can use. Intelligence, dog shit, goldfish-like. Stupid, no thought behind their eyes whatsoever. I mean, they're vampires at the end of the day, then, you know, they're not alive, but the AI in the game is god awful, like Xbox 360 and below awful. To be fair, I have actually seen better intelligence in original Xbox games and PS2 games. I'm not kidding either. I'm really not. The worst thing about this game is its dreadful AI. It's unforgivable. It truly is. And they do reuse a lot of the vampire skins. There isn't a massive range, which again is a big disappointment, because you would expect, especially an entire town of people that all get infected and turned into vampires, that they would all have certain traits about their looks. No, you'll kill the same vampire 50 to 100 times. There are different variations of vampires, ones with different and special abilities, which is awesome. They all look exactly the same. It's the same ones over and over again. The bosses, as great as they are in design, again, their intelligence is massively lacking, and they are stupidly easy to deal with. I played the game on normal mode, as I always do for a review, and I felt that 95% of the game, I breezed through it super easy. I didn't rush it. I just spent the majority of my time on the side missions and the collectibles over the story. So by the time I started pushing on the story missions, I was well geared, leveled up, and I was quite strong. And the bosses, I just mowed them down. Absolutely mowed them down. Yeah, I do have to say that some of them are unique. And well, they're all well designed, but some of them are unique enough to be a little bit tricky. But once you understand what you need to do, it's a piece of piss. It's a walk in the park. It's easy mode. It really is. And it was disappointing, because I want these bosses. These are vampire lords, vampire gods, you know, whatever you want to label them. They need to be scary, they need to be terrifying, and most importantly, they need to be difficult to fight. And I've been hearing a lot of negativity around how co-op doesn't balance the enemy difficulty with the co-op play. So there are people that are running around with their friends mowing everything down super quickly because the game isn't balancing itself up with the amount of players that are playing in the game. And that's a real disappointment yet again, because when you play with friends, you would want more of a challenge. You would want the game difficulty to go up. And again, I know I played this on normal mode. There are 2 more difficulties above that. The last one, which we unlocked by playing the game itself and completing it once, we unlocked the hardest difficulty in the game. But there was, I was sighing a lot. I was excited, and then followed with a couple of sighs. I was excited and followed by a couple of sighs. I found most of my enjoyment running around and entering every single building that I could, lock picking away at little safes or hacking away at little digital terminals to open up the safes that are around the level and collect all the lovely shinies that are in them, because I'm not gonna lie, I am a bit of a shiny whore. I like to collect anything and everything that I can get my hands on. So there are vials of hair that you can go around collecting, which give you an audio story arc of one of the important characters of the game. And I loved collecting those. I think I found around about 64, 65 out of 100 on my first playthrough without looking at any guides or any books. There are a lot of items that you can pick up from healthy items to increase your health, sellable consumables, which immediately get sold once you've picked them up, and you can use those credits or the money to buy more guns, buy more lockpicks, buy more safe crack kits. But I was really frustrated that you could only carry 3 lockpicks and 3 safe crackers at any one time with the character that I chose, which pretty much meant I would enter one building and use maybe all 3 of my lockpicks in one go, and then I'd have to go teleport to the safe house, I'd have to rebuy more of them, teleport back, and it was that a lot of the time. It was back, forth, back, forth, back, forth, back, forth. But a part of me didn't mind that. Part of me did. Part of me didn't mind it, but part of me did. I just think it needs to be bumped up. Maybe 5 of every one of them would be a little bit more helpful, or maybe don't bother capping it and let them carry maybe 10 of each, just so they're not having to teleport back and forward. The weapon system in this game is extremely similar to other looter shooter games that you would play that have a color tier system, whites being commons, and then it goes up to greens, then it goes up to blues, then purples, then golds. There are some sexy looking weapons in this game, and I mean really sexy. Some undead type looking weapons as well that were gold. And they got me very excited to go around and try and find them all and collect them all, because I wanted to see all the varieties that I could get my hands on. The safe houses that you unlocked all came with 2 missions each, one with a mission and then one with an underboss that you had to do. You needed to collect the underboss skulls to use in obtaining certain collectibles, and to also progress through the story itself you need to actually do them. There are quick travel points around the map as well, and again, if you like me, like to run around the map first before you do anything, you will unlock all the fast travel points, so when you get to the story aspect, instead of having to run, you can just teleport all around the map, and it makes it so much quicker for you. That's how I like to play. So play as you want. That's just my style. Any customization, we've already pretty much talked about that. We've already scratched on that. Stats building, you do level up the more missions that you do, the more enemies that you fight. There is a lot more that you can do in this game than you think. I love the level trees that they have for each individual character, and each character has their own unique abilities as well. Apart from the ammo storage, all the survivors seem to have the same tree on that aspect. I started off with the medic character, again, just because I love running around as a medic. I had my Bourbon boot beep robot following me around, who was the thickest robot I've ever come in contact with, and probably the most dumbest robot I've ever come in contact with, because he at most times was useless. He really was, unless you sent him in via command to try to pull aggro, try to distract the enemies. He would die way too fast, or he would just stand there and not do anything, or better yet, he'd get stuck and couldn't get out of where he was stuck, and you'd have to reload just so you could unstick him. We even got to a point where we broke him so badly, we had a second one spawn, and we had 2 of them. We were running around with 2 companions, and it worked, by the way. They were both attacking the enemies when I commanded them to, and I was like, there is no way this game is this broken. But guess what? It is. It is. So as you level up, you can put your talent points wherever you want to in your trees, and you can pretty much level to a certain area first and be a little bit more unique. Again, I went straight with leveling up my AI robot because I wanted him to be super strong, and I just realized I wasted the majority of my points because he was useless. All 4 of the characters that you can pick have their own unique 3 abilities that, again, all completely different. So before you go ahead and choose your character, take the time to look through them all so you can find a feel of which character fits your type of play style. Because you do have a kind of a tanking build in there with the umbrella lady. You've got the healer, you've got the sniper, and you've got the teleporter as well, which is kind of cool, to be fair, because you can actually teleport on top of houses and snipe down at enemies. The AI aggression at times was really broken, like super broken. I was shot by AI even though they were looking in a completely different direction, and yet their bullets were shooting directly at me. That's fucking lovely, by the way. They would hurt you very quick with their ammunition as well. You're not bulletproof in this game, and that's where sometimes the difficulty can shift a tiny bit, because you could breeze through a big section of this game, run into a crowd of AI mobsters with guns, and they will just absolutely mow you down super fast. Or you'll be unlucky to go up against one of the Shroud vampires that will just suck away your health or throw energy beams at you and kill you. So take your time. don't rush into a pile of people and expect to come out alive, because they will probably kill you very quickly. Story, if applicable, yes, this game definitely has a story, and I have to say it is the best thing about this game. Along with the soundtrack, the story in Redfall is fantastic. I thoroughly enjoyed it from start to end. There were a lot of twists and turns throughout the story. There were a lot of twists and turns in some of the side missions and the side quests that you did, but I seriously enjoyed the story. There was around about the 70%, 80% where there was a big twist and turn that I never thought would have even happened, and it did, and I was like, oh my god, I was actually blown away. So I have to give them props. I'm not going to tell you anything about the story because this is a spoiler-free review. So all I'm going to say is that I thoroughly enjoyed the story. 100% probably the best thing about the game, with its soundtrack. Online co-op modes, features, and stability. We did spend a day to test out the online connection with a couple of friends, one in the UK, one across the pond, and there was no problems on the Xbox from our side. Again, I know I've had a lot of people come into my chat talk about the PC versions having a monstrous problem with connections online, and as painful as it is to hear, I can't talk much about that because we're reviewing the Xbox Series X version of this game, not the PC version. I've been hearing so many bad things about the PC versions, but I can't really go into detail about it because it's irrelevant for this review. Purchase price, digital price, and value of content. The boxed copy of this game that I can get from my retailers is £60. £60. That is a hefty price tag. The digital price for this game is £70. The standard version. And the digital deluxe, no shitting you, is £100. Now, those are stupid prices. Those are ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. Do I feel with how broken this game is, do I feel that it is a £60 game? No way. Not at all. No, it's not. Is it a £50 game? $49.99? No, but you are getting closer. In my honest opinion, what would I be happy to pay for this game in its current state, in its current condition? $39.99, and that's purely based on the level of fun that I had myself on it. But $39.99 for the standard is a fairer price than what they're asking for. Yeah. I'm sorry, but 60 quid? You're nuts. You're absolutely nuts. So what I'm going to do is start reading down everything that I wrote down during the review. Now, some of this is going to be, it may be a repeat of what we've already talked about. Some of it will be adding on to some of the categories that we've already gone down. So, first of all, it is an 80 gig game. 80 gig is a pretty hefty big boy of a game. But to be fair, it kind of makes sense with how massive the two maps are and how there are no loading screens in those two maps. So 80 gig, I can understand why it's a big hefty boy. The game is available on both Xbox and Windows. Publisher is Bethesda, and when I heard their name was on the game, it all made sense. The developers are Arcane Studios. It is included with Game Pass. Hallelujah! That's the only reason why we reviewed the game in the first place. It's classed as an action adventure. The game is single player, but like I said already, it's online single player or online co-op. We did have a 1.4 gigabyte patch on the day that we started reviewing this game. I do not know what was fixed. I did not go through the patch notes. I'm just going to be completely honest with you. 4 playable characters or heroes and 4 levels of difficulty. The very first main note I wrote was bad AI responses, and like I said, the AI is bad, like god awful. Is the worst thing about this game. The scenic viewer items like the telescopes and when you go to a pier and you see that thing that you can look into, none of those worked in the game. Every single one of them were completely broken. So yay for brokenness. The mapping system that they used, and this is very, very, very important, was extremely basic and kind of frustrating at times. The map would only highlight what certain buildings were, so key buildings, safe houses, and warp points. The map would not mark any safes, any digital safes or hackable safes. It didn't mark any of those. It didn't mark where you found collectibles. It didn't mark where you found missions or anything like that. It was the basic of basic maps, and it was probably the shittest map system I've ever seen. I'll be completely honest. I was super disappointed with it. Because at times I couldn't remember where a certain thing was, and I had to then run around the entire section again to try and find it. And it would have just been nice if certain things that you interact with in the game, like locked doors, locked safes, digi-safes and stuff like that, that there were symbols for those on the map and a cross on them if you've already opened them and you've already done them. I know loot respawns in this game if you was to reload the game, just like a lot of the looter sims games that you play out there, which I'm absolutely fine with. But it would still be nice if you were to mark on that map where those were. So I always knew Always know where to go back to and to open them up if I haven't opened them up. There were... this made us laugh quite a lot. There was T-posing ads and dead bodies. So a body that was supposed to be on the floor dead decided to resurrect himself and just T-posed just there. And just, for reasons unknown, we just left him to it. God-awful, terrible AI respawning. You'll have fun with that when you die by enemies that just mass spawn around you. No ability to store unused favorite weapons. I didn't like this. There are a lot of weapons that you collect throughout the game. Some of them, the gold tier weapons, the really nice weapons, you can't store any of those weapons away. You can only, you either hold on to them or you bin them. Or sell them, basically. And that was kind of frustrating because I wanted to save my golds. I wanted to put them in like a little storage unit so I knew where they were and I could go back to and play with them whenever I wanted to. But you can't store weapons in the game. You can hold 40 something weapons at once, and then after that you can't pick up any more. You then have to bin everything that you've picked up that you don't want. No loading screens out on the main game map. We've already spoken about that. Loot coding broken. Many items not... Yeah, we couldn't pick up a lot of items in the game. There was something major wrong with a lot of the items that we just couldn't pick up. You can tell what loot can be picked up because it will shimmer, it will flash, so you know what you can pick up. But throughout the game, we found that probably maybe about 5% of all loot that we tried to pick up, we couldn't pick up. We tried stepping at a certain angle and we couldn't pick up. We tried climbing on top of things, couldn't pick it up. That's something that they're just going to have to comb over and patch. But that's, for someone who's such a loot person like myself, I hated not being able to pick up loot. It frustrated the hell out of me. And again, comb over, patch it, get it fixed, and I'm sure they'll be rocking. Can't carry any more than 3 lockpicks with the character that I chose. We've already spoken about that. Bugged gun list at the shop. At some point in the game, we tried opening up our weapons list and it was blank. There was nothing there. It showed us how many weapons that we had via the number, but the guns weren't appearing at all. We had to reload in order to fix that bug. We've already spoken about gun customization. We've already spoken about that you can't play offline. We enjoyed the nest missions, but there wasn't a big variety. A lot of the nest missions that you do are quite similar. But don't get me wrong, I actually thoroughly enjoyed doing those. The crouch button broke and the start button broke. No idea what caused it, but it happened maybe about 4 or 5 times throughout our entire playthrough. Our character would not crouch. We heard an alert, but my character wouldn't crouch, and I was trying to push the start menu on my controller and my start menu wouldn't pop up either. So that were broken multiple times throughout the game. But again, reloading the game fixed the problem. A single fire weapon is classed as automatic. Yeah, you do what you want with that. We had 3 game disconnections and 1 full hard crash on the game. I loved the trust system in multiplayer. So as you're playing with your friends, your characters will build up trust with each other. And I freaking love that concept. And the more trust that you have with each other, the more conversation and dialogue will happen between the characters. And I really love that. I thought that's a freaking excellent system to use. A lack of gore for an 18 rated game. I do have to agree with that. I'm sorry. It is a freaking 18 rated vampire game. I expected mutilation, limbs being ripped off. I'm talking full on gore, and it's not that. This game could have easily gone through as a PEGI 16 or a PG 16 game. it maybe even 12, because it is very, very light on the gore aspect of this game. And that is a big kick in the teeth for me, because I wanted something a lot more gruesome. I wanted to snipe, you know, heads off, limbs off. I wanted to cut apart vampires and stuff. No, it's very family friendly. For an 18 rated game, it's very family friendly. Terrible and janky climbing mechanics. Have fun dying a lot when your character won't climb up correctly on something and slide down and break her legs, because it happened quite a bit for me. And it was the wrist action, the broken wrist action when you were climbing, kind of gross. Mission scenes before missions were really cool. I enjoyed the introduction to all the missions because it was done in a really cinematic way, and I absolutely loved that. Oh, your character does terrible and incorrect callouts. At times, your character will say there's no more vampires left, or after you've killed a certain player, she'll say that they're all done. But 2 meters down, there's another person that's just about to rock your world, or there's a vampire behind you that's about to beat the shit out of you. I don't get what. If you're gonna do a call-out system, at least make sure it's done correctly. Bosses were far too easy, 100%. Soft-locked AI companion, I had to reload to fix the robot. We've already spoken about that. There are 2 maps in the game, and again, I'm not going to go too much into this because of spoilers, but just be super careful that you're ready to teleport to the second map, because once you do, you cannot teleport back. Just be very, very, very careful with that, because again, if you're a completionist like me and you want to do everything, you may accidentally trigger the story mission that pushes you into the second map, and then you're screwed. So be careful. There is only host progression only when you're playing with friends. I don't understand why that's even a system, and I think that is a dog shit of a system. If I'm going to play with 3 friends, I want all 4 of us to progress together. I do not want it where if I come off, all 3 of my friends now have to start from the very beginning again because it's only host progression. I don't get that at all, and I don't even know why it's a fucking thing. But that is awful. An awful system. But what your friends will carry back to their own games, they'll carry weapons, experience, and unlockables. That's it. Oh, collectibles as well. No story progression. So they will start from the very, very, very beginning again. Excellent soundtrack. We've already spoken about that. Extremely disappointing endgame boss. Not going to go into detail about it, but I myself, super disappointed. But that's everything that I've written down. And the structure that we've gone down as well. So now all it boils down to is, would I recommend this game to people? And what would I score it out of 10? I would not recommend this game to anyone that has to buy it. The game is in no way fit for purchase. It is way too buggy, way too broken, and just a bit of a pain in the ass, to be fair. It truly is. If you can play this game on Game Pass, then I would suggest giving it a try, but try it with friends. Don't play it on your own, play it with friends, because playing any game with friends amplifies the enjoyment and it magnifies the fun factor. It really does. But this game is terribly broken. Graphically, intelligence-wise on the AI, the looting part of it, there are way too many bugs in this game. And this game was clearly not ready. Clearly, it should have easily been delayed. And that is going to knock a massive bulk of points off the review. It simply is. The graphics engine was broken to shit. Missing textures, terrible loading speeds with the textures as well, and terrible draw distance. Not good enough. It really isn't. The terrible AI, which is the whole center point of the game, is to fight vampires that are dumb as shit. Like super dumb as shit. And I'm sorry, but I'm not, just because I got to play this game for free doesn't mean I'm going to give you a pass. Not in the slightest. But I did have fun playing this game. I do like playing vampire games. I do like playing shooting games. And the ability to play with 3 other friends is definitely a boost as well. But overall, the game ain't ready. And surely shouldn't fucking have a £60 price tag on the damn thing. Are you mental? £100 for your digital deluxe? Don't get it. Don't get it. So if you can play with friends and for free, I would suggest dipping your toe into it a little bit and just giving it a try. And you may surprise yourself like I surprised myself, because I did have fun with the game. Again, my favorite, the story and the soundtrack. Those are my 2 key favorites. The multiplayer aspect, playing with friends as well, that is another win for me as well. The game worked. We played it from start to finish. We could end the game. It didn't soft lock or hard lock, and we couldn't finish the game at all, like some reviews we've done. But it's extremely broken, like really bad. If you're able to still watch some of my Twitch streams, I would highly suggest it. I'm going to score Redfall with the fun factor that I had. The soundtrack was really good too. It really was. I'm happy scoring this game a 5.5 out of 10. And that's me being generous. That's me being generous. This game was not ready. Not ready at all. If I didn't enjoy this game and if I didn't have the fun that I had, it would probably be a 4. Maybe even weaker than that. Do you know what? No. I'm being too generous. I'm giving it a 5. 5 out of 10. Just because great soundtrack, great story, and I can play with friends. That carries the majority of the weight right there. 5 out of 10. I'm not willing to go any higher than that because it doesn't deserve it. It doesn't deserve it. But I hope you guys enjoyed this review. It's being live recorded right now on Twitch, and it's gonna get uploaded to YouTube for anyone that pretty much missed the live streams that we did. If you did enjoy watching this YouTube video, please give it a thumbs up. Put some comments down below on what you think. If you're playing it and you're enjoying it, then awesome. Tell me what character you're playing as. Tell me your favorite guns. Tell me your favorite parts of the game so far, and I will chit chat away with you. But I hope you guys enjoyed this spoiler-free review of Redfall on the Xbox Series X. So thank you again. Stay safe, stay healthy, stay well, and I will see you guys in the next review. Take care.